You've surely seen one before, a rubble-strewn pit, the failed remnants of a once promising construction project. They're all over the place, but a few in particular have gained a certain degree of notoriety, or maybe infamy is a better word. Here's 10 of the most famous stalled construction pits. Starting off the list at number 10, we have one of the most famous and one of the most expensive construction holes in the ground, the Chicago Spire site. The idea for the Spire was first proposed in 2005. It was an exciting project that would bring the first 2,000-foot tall building to the United States. But due to its complexity, the project had issues from the start. Despite these, foundation work began in 2007. The massive foundation required for the building was finished in late 2008. Unfortunately, this was right around the time that the financial crisis was getting particularly serious. Construction was halted and the developers scrambled to adjust to the new financial realities that they were facing. Ultimately, they decided that they wouldn't be able to continue to develop the project. In the following decade, countless legal battles were fought regarding how to handle the partially completed mega project. There's been several different ideas for what could go there next, and in 2024, construction began on 2 towers, both of them significantly shorter than the Chicago Spire, but they still will have a commanding presence in the Chicago skyline. Next up at number 9, we have the Asheville, North Carolina Pit of Despair.
The Pit of Despair.
The quirky mountain town of Asheville, North Carolina is known for its craft breweries, spectacular views of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and a big, ugly vacant lot located in the middle of one of the most prime pieces of real estate in the downtown area. Located across the street from the Basilica of St. Lawrence and Harrah's Cherokee Center lies a lot that's been vacant for nearly a decade. Redevelopment planning for the site goes back much further to the early 2000s when a parking garage and dated retail store once stood on this site. Over the years, plans for redevelopment have come and gone, leaving nothing but political turmoil in their wake. In one of the most recent plans, it called for a majority of the 1-acre lot to be turned into a park at a cost of nearly $15 million. It may be a while before this project can move forward because the city of Asheville's finances were already tight, and now they're dealing with the fallout from the terrible flooding that they had a few months ago. Ashevilleans are split on the proposed park. Some think it's worth the money to get rid of the vacant lot, while others have pitched alternative ideas for the site. It remains to be seen if the park that some have referred to as the Slope of Hope will move forward, or if the site will remain vacant for years to come. On to number 8, we have Wade Park, located in Frisco, Texas. It was declared the most exciting project in Texas when it broke ground in 2014. The Wade Park mixed-use redevelopment was set to be a massive undertaking. The project, which would cost $2 billion, was going to be the centerpiece of a rapidly developing section of Frisco, Texas, known as the $5 billion mile. Wade Park was going to provide residential and commercial options to the citizens of Frisco, as well as luxury amenities like a high-end movie theater. When it was completed, the project would include as many as 1,300 new apartments in addition to condos and single-family homes. Things started to go awry, though, in 2016 when financing became hard to come by. Already behind schedule, the developers were forced to take out a bridge loan for $200 million, which would tide them over until more permanent financing could be acquired. This is generally not seen as an ideal situation for a developer, but rather a financing option of last resort. Essentially, the company providing the bridge loan is like a payday loan on steroids. Issues between the developer and the company providing the bridge loan have put the project on hold. The controversy has brought the project to a screeching halt. Currently, the project sits as a massive unfinished trash-strewn rubble pit along the highway. At number 7, we have the Mechanic Theater site in downtown Baltimore, Maryland. The Morris A. Mechanic Theater in downtown Baltimore was a quintessential example of the brutalist style of architecture. Built in the 1960s, the hulking concrete structure was an odd mashup of concrete shapes and angles. Some people loved it, some people hated it, but nobody could dispute that it was unique. In 2014, it was demolished to make way for an extensive planned redevelopment project. Located at the intersection of Baltimore and Charles Street, this site is the unofficial center to downtown. The development project was seen as a way to help revitalize the urban core that had been in decline for decades. Unfortunately, progress on this project came to a halt shortly after the demolition of the theater took place. What started as a seemingly minor debate over parking garage access in the vicinity has spiraled into a series of financial and legal problems that make the project look like it may never happen. In the decades since the demolition, the city block-sized hole in the ground has remained virtually untouched. Trash has piled up, and with the exception of a green mat being added for aesthetic purposes, little has changed. The developer of the project recently stated that they're not able to make the project feasible unless they get further tax breaks from the city. Seems like something they should have considered before tearing down a unique part of the city's history and replacing it with a trash-filled pit the size of a city block. At number 6, we have the Oceanwide Center in San Francisco, originally planned as a $1.6 billion project featuring 2 skyscrapers. It's become a symbol of downtown dysfunction in San Francisco. It's also interesting to note that in last week's video, we looked at another project, this one in Los Angeles, that was also being done by the Oceanwide developers. Back to San Francisco. Construction began on this one in 2016 but was halted in 2019, leaving behind a concrete pit at 1st and Mission Street. The project was designed to include 1.35 million square feet of office space, 262 luxury condos, and a Waldorf Astoria hotel. Financial troubles have plagued the development, though, with Oceanwide Holdings losing control of the project in 2021 after missing debt payments. Liens piled up, totaling around $200 million, although they were later reduced to $20 million. Construction and real estate professionals estimate that over $400 million in construction costs have already been invested in the site. Next up, we have the vacant block across from the Seattle City Hall building. It's been a persistent eyesore for nearly 2 decades. Since the demolition of the old public safety building in 2005, the site has remained undeveloped, creating a gap in the urban fabric. In 2020, a Vancouver-based developer purchased the property for $16 million, with plans to construct a 58-story residential tower and a 25,000 square foot public plaza. However, construction's faced numerous delays. Significant construction activity has paused, and the project is in a holding pattern. The site, occupying a full city block between 3rd and 4th Avenue, has seen multiple failed redevelopment attempts over the years. Downtown office space vacancy rates have increased from around 5% in 2019 to 25% now, further complicating redevelopment efforts. Down to number 4, we have the long vacant site at 250 Water Street in New York City. This site has been the subject of development controversy for over 4 decades. It was purchased back in 1979 when it was a block-sized parking lot for $5.8 million. Since then, at least 8 proposals have failed to gain approval from the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission due to the site's location within the South Street Seaport Historic District. In 2018, Howard Hughes Corporation acquired the property for $180 million. Recent development attempts have faced significant opposition. In 2020, Howard Hughes proposed a 1,000-foot tower, which was met with criticism. A revised plan for a 324-foot tower with 270 apartments was approved in 2021. However, legal battles persisted, with opponents citing concerns over scale and flood zone risks. In June of 2023, a court ruling overturned the previous objections, allowing Howard Hughes to proceed with the $850 million project. At number 3, we have the Burlington Hole. The Burlington Hole is a stalled development project in downtown Burlington, Vermont. The project, originally planned as a 14-story mixed-use building with several hundred apartments, was part of an effort to revitalize the city center and address urgent housing needs. However, since it was originally planned, the development has faced significant challenges and delays. Rising construction costs, increased interest rates, and lender hesitancy have all contributed to the project's stagnation. Someone close to the development team noted that when they re-engaged on the project after the COVID-related pause, they were unable to capitalize on lower interest rates. Despite being Vermont's largest city, the population of Burlington has actually remained relatively stagnant, and the non-student population is actually decreasing. So while this one looks like it's closer to getting done than some on the list, the future isn't totally clear. Of all the stalled projects on this list, the one that I like the least is this one.
Oh my God. How do we let this happen?
At number 2, we have the Main Street Hole in the Ground in Newport, Vermont. It's a familiar story. A developer comes in pitching a grandiose development project that's going to allegedly revitalize a town. The local politicians get on board in the hopes of getting a photo op at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, and many of the questions that should have been asked ahead of time simply aren't. Demolition starts, and then for one reason or another, the project falls through. The developer disappears, and the local residents are left with a giant hole in the ground. That's pretty much what happened in Newport, Vermont, when a large chunk of the historic Main Street was flattened to make way for a project called the Renaissance Block. The only problem with the project was that, according to the SEC, it was nearly a complete fraud. Unsurprisingly, after this revelation came out, the project wasn't a project any longer. The once vibrant Main Street hasn't recovered in the decades since, and the hole in the ground hasn't been redeveloped. And finally, down to number 1, we have what is most likely the most famous stalled construction project in the world right now, 2 World Trade Center. The 2 World Trade Center site was originally home to the South Tower of the World Trade Center complex, and it has faced a complex journey since the tragic events of September 11, 2001. The original South Tower was completed in 1971 and at the time was the world's second tallest building. After the September 11th attacks, plans for rebuilding the site emerged as part of a larger World Trade Center reconstruction effort. However, progress on 2 World Trade Center has been significantly slower compared to other buildings in the complex. The original design was for a tower by architect Norman Foster and was going to offer striking angles and a very contemporary design. Despite the initial plans, construction of 2 World Trade Center has repeatedly been delayed due to various factors, including economic uncertainty and changes in the design proposal. As of 2023, the site remains largely undeveloped, with only the building's foundation and part of its below-grade structure complete. The future of 2 World Trade Center remains uncertain, with ongoing discussions about the final design and potential tenants. When it's complete, it's expected to be a significant addition to the Lower Manhattan skyline, contributing to the area's revitalization and serving as a symbol of resilience alongside its counterparts in the World Trade Center complex. Thanks for watching. Let me know if I missed a pit in your city. I might make a part 2, so if you got good suggestions, send them my way. New videos out every Friday.